Jai Jagannath. Jagannath, the Lord of the Jagat, the universe. We all know in whichever name, in whichever form, or in whatever way we worship and pray God, God is one and He is omnipotent, omnipresent, and omniscient. It is all a matter of our faith and belief in Him. And His God is always there for those who have absolute faith in Him. Today, my stories are all about this faith in God and how God turns out to be the Savior of those who have absolute faith in Him. These stories are from all the yugas, the Satya Yuga, the Tretaya, the Dwapara, and the Kali Yuga. And these stories are embedded beautifully in a very popular, or I can rather say, an immortal bhajan of Lord Jagannath. The series of stories go like this. गजराज चिंता कला ठाई घर जळेण गजराज चिंता कला ठाई घर जळेण चक्र पेशी नक्र नासी उधारिल आपण Nila, Saila. That elephant had walked a long way along with its calf in search for water. After walking a distance, the calf got tired and exhausted. The mother elephant then kept her calf in a safe place and went alone in search of water. And finally, she could see a stream. And as she stepped into the stream to quench her thirst, her leg was gripped by the sharp teeth of a ferocious crocodile. The mother elephant tried to release itself, but it couldn't help herself. The clasp of the crocodile's jaw was too hard and tight around her leg. She had a deep cut, and blood started dripping down her wound. And she cried in pain and agony, not for her wound or for the pain from the crocodile, but she thought of her calf, that she would die without water if she is not able to reach her on time. Thinking that she was in agony, and she cried for help. Who could help her at that point of time in that place? It was heard by God, and then He sent His Sudarsana to slay the crocodile, and the monstrous crocodile was slain in no time. And the elephant could free itself and finally get to go to her calf with water in her trunk. This is what is called faith. How the elephant, because of her tremendous faith on God, she asked for help, she cried for help, and God was there to help her. कुरुपति सभा तले द्रौपदीर जनाण कुरुपति सभा तले द्रौपदीर जनाण कोटि वस्त्र देई हेले लज्जा कल बारण आहे नील शैल. It was the court of Hastinapur. After winning the game of dice, The Kauravas wanted to disrobe Draupadi. Dusasan pulled Draupadi by her hair and brought her to the court amidst all present, and they tried to disrobe Draupadi. Draupadi was in a state of shock and disbelief. She was engulfed in a mix of emotion, of embarrassment, anger, pain, grief, frustration, and disgust. Looking at her husband, she thought where they had brought her to. They should have protected her as they were their husband, but they have used her in a game of dice. And the elders of the family, they were all sitting there with their heads bowed down. And the gurus whom she had worshipped and she had served, now they are doing nothing for her. And the king, Dhritarashtra, was born blind. Has he gone blind in his mind too? All these things came to Draupadi's mind, and she was badly insulted and offended. And she tried her level best to keep herself covered. At that point of time, who can she go for and ask for help? Then she thought of Madhava, her Sakha, closing her eyes and tears rolling down her cheeks. She called for Madhava. Oh, Madhava, where are you? Just help me from this situation. And Madhava was there. Krishna was in fact there. He was sending yards and yards of clothes to keep Draupadi covered. And finally, they could not, Duryodhan and Dusasan, they could not disrobe her and fell down exhausted to the ground besides the huge pile of clothes that Krishna had been sending to keep Draupadi covered. And that was called faith. That was Krishna was Draupadi's Sakha. How couldn't he come to help her at that point of time? ରାବଣର ଭାଇ ବିଭୀଷଣ ଗଲା ଶରଣ ରାବଣର ଭାଇ ବିଭୀଷଣ ଗଲା ଶରଣ ଶରଣ ସମ୍ଭାଳି ତାକୁ ଲଙ୍କେ କଲ ରାଜନ Nila, Saila. Vibhisan was the righteous person who treated the right path, whereas Ravana was arrogant and full of ego. In spite of Vibhisan requesting him and advising him to send Sita back to where he had brought from, but Ravana would not listen. It all fell to deaf ears. Even Bibhisana pleaded that you should send Sita back to Rama. But Ravana would not listen to him. Rather, he would humiliate him that he was a coward and would insult him in front of others. Bibhisan tried his level best and told him of the dire consequences he would face if he was not going to return Sita to Rama. But in the middle of the court, Ravana humiliated Bibhisan and even banished him from his court. So Bibhisan left and took refuge in the lotus feet of Rama. Rama welcomed him with open arms and gave him shelter. And soon after Ravana was killed by Ram, Bibhisan, he crowned Bibhisan and coronated him as the king of Lanka. So, this is how God would always support those who treat the right path. प्रह्लाद तात हिरण्य बड़ दुष्ट दारुण प्रह्लाद तात हिरण्य बड़ दुष्ट दारुण स्तंभरू बाहरी ताको विदारिल Nila, Saila. Prahlad was the young boy who was the greatest devotee of Narayana, whereas his father Hiranyakasipu was the demon king who was not scared of anyone. He thought himself to be the supreme power. He thought himself to be omnipotent and the ruler of Tribhuvan, all the three worlds. In fact, he had got the boon that you'd never killed by anyone, neither by a demon, nor by a human, and nor by God, and neither by any astra or by any sastra. And he had also got the boon that you'd never be killed either at the daytime or at the night time, neither in the air, nor in the water, nor in the land. So, considering himself to be very powerful, he wouldn't care for anyone. He did not pay any heed to any good advice given to him that this will all lead to his fall. And he would threaten his subjects to chant his name and not the name of Hari and Narayana. Whereas his son Prahlad would never stop chanting Hari and Narayana because he was a God's devotee. It is for that Hiranyakasipu had tried many a times to kill Prahlad, his own son. Once Hiranyakasipu was infuriated by Prahlad's repeated chanting of God's name. And he challenged him and asked him, "Do you think your God is here in this big pillar?" Prahlad said, "Yes, he resides in there too." So Hiranyakasipu picked up his big mace and with one strike, the mightiest of might, he struck the pillar into pieces. With thundering sound and the shaking of the earth, the pillar broke into pieces, and out came a creature who was half lion and half human. The upper part was that of the lion, and the bottom part was that of the human being. He looked ferocious. He instantly picked up Hiranyakasipu, put him on his lap, and ripped his belly with his sharp claws, and took out his intestine and ate them up, with blood dripping all over his face and all the entire ground. And that was the end of Hiranyakasipu, the demon king. And that avatara, Vishnu takes the avatara to come to this mortal world when there is some disturbance in order to mend equilibrium. God takes a form, an avatar to come and maintain the equilibrium and finish the evils. This Narasimha avatar was the purpose of Vishnu to come and kill Hiranyakasipu and save Prahlad, his devotee. Kahe sal begahina jati re mo jabana कहे साल बेगहीना जाति रे मो जबाना श्रीरंगा चरण तले କରୁଅଛି ନମନ ଆହେ ନୀଳ ଶୈଳ. Salbeg was Lord Jagannath's devotee. But since he was a Muslim, he never got an opportunity to enter Jagannath temple in Puri, as non-Hindus are not allowed to get inside the temple. But that never deterred him from worshipping Jagannath. He had kept his idol in his home and would worship him very devotedly, very religiously. He performed all the rituals and prayed to Lord Jagannath. God was very happy with him, and Salbeg never had a complaint that is not able to go and see there. But it was his cherished desire that he could see Lord in his own abode. But since that could not be fulfilled, he went on with his work and prayed and worshipped God. And for everything that he had to consult, he would go and sit in front of the idol and pour his heart out. Then came Car Festival, Rath Yatra, the famous Rath Yatra of Puri. People flocked in thousands to Puri to pull the Lord's chariot because that is a very auspicious thing. They all flocked there, and it was with much pomp and splendor. All the three chariots of Lord Balabhadra, Subhadra, and Jagannath were pulled. But when Lord Jagannath's rath and chariot was pulled, it went for a certain distance and thereafter it stopped. Everyone thought what went wrong. They tried to pull it again, but it wouldn't budge even an inch. Then people thought there must be some lapse in the observation of the rituals whereby this thing has happened. Or maybe something inauspicious is going to happen. Thinking of all these things, people were very worried. So were the priest and the king of Puri. Soon night fell, people all went to their houses, and Lord Jagannath came in the dreams of the head priest. And he told him, "Listen, my devotee Salbeg had often wanted to see me inside the temple in my own abode, but his wish has never got fulfilled. So I have stopped near his house. Just go and inform him to come and see me in the chariot itself." The head priest got startled. He woke up. Then he could understand why the chariot couldn't move even an inch, in spite of so many people trying to keep the rath, the chariot, moving. So message was sent to Salbeg. And upon hearing this, he was overwhelmed. He was so happy and he felt a bliss in his heart. So immediately he ran to the chariot and to offer his prayers and see the Lord. He was so happy and he said, "God, you stopped near my house so that I could see you. You have come to me. What else I want in my life? It's such a blissful thing for me." And tears rolled down his cheeks. He fell at the feet of the Lord and prayed him. And that was Salbeg's story. Even God comes to his devotees who had faith and belief in him absolutely. आहे नील शैल प्रबल मत वरण प्रबल मत वरण मोआरत नलिनी नको कल दळन Nila, Saila. Jai Jagannath. Thank you so much. The end of my story.